Okay, I'll start your time. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Om Vishnubad Paramahansa Paripurajaka Stotara Sata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamana Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Welcome everyone to Caitanya Caritamrita, this Holiness Jayādvaita Swami. It is Thursday, June 26th, 2025. Today we're starting with Adi-lila, chapter 14, text 25. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, I will begin with text 25, chapter 14. Eta Bali Gala Sachi Grihe Karma Karite.
No,
No,
I
did
think
I?
you're 24.
Oh, okay.
That starts this pastime.
Okay. I see. What I saw in the chat was probably something
We
meant for.
started, but then decided to start here.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, 24. Ekadina Sachi Kahi Sandesha Aniya Batabari Diabaila Kota Basiya. Translation. One day, while the Lord was enjoying his playful sports with the other little children, Mother Sachi brought a dish filled with fused rice and sweetmeats and asked the child to sit down and eat them. you like to comment, Gurmash?
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Shaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshtave. Just that the sweetmeat is Sandesh. Prabhupada text specifies Sandesh, and koi, fused rice. That's something like puffed rice, but different. You may be familiar with the kind of white corrugated puffed rice that's thrown in auspicious festivals and so on. That's koi. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I guess I'll continue with 25 till we get up to a purport. Etapali Galasachi Grihe Karma Karite Lukana Bagila Sishu Ritika Kaite. But when she returned to her household duties, the child hid from his mother and began to eat dirt. Any comments? Okay. 26. Deki Sachi Dana Ila Kari Hoi Hoi Mati Kadi Lana Kahe Mati Kena Kaye Kaya. Translation. Seeing this, Mother Sashi hastily returned and exclaimed, "What is this? What is this?" She snatched the dirt from the hands of the Lord and inquired why he was eating it.
Yeah, continue.
27. Kandiya balena shu kena kara rosa tumi mati kaitidile mora iba dosha. Translation. Crying, the child inquired from his mother, "Why are you angry? You have already given me dirt to eat. What is my fault?" "28. Kai Kai Sandra Ana Yateka Matira Vikara Eho Mati Seha Mati Ki Beda Vichara. Translation of 28. Fused rice, sweetmeats, and all other eatables are but transformations of dirt. This is dirt, that is dirt. Please consider, what is the difference between them? Any comments there? Okay, 29. Yeah. Mati deha mati bhaksha dekaha vichari avichare deha dosha ki balite pari. Translation. This body is a transformation of dirt, and the eatables are also a transformation of dirt. Please reflect upon this. You are blaming me without consideration. What can I say? Okay, purport. Okay, rather long purport. We should break it up, perhaps.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. This is an explanation of the Mayavad philosophy, which takes everything to be one. The necessities of the body, namely eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, are all necessary in spiritual life. When one is elevated to the spiritual platform, there are no more bodily necessities. And in activities pertaining to the bodily necessities, There are no spiritual considerations. In other words, the more we eat, sleep, have sex, and try to defend ourselves, the more we engage in material activities. You could pause there unless you think I should continue.
Nidrahara vihara gadi vijito. These are the material necessities: eating, sleeping, mating, defending. And those who are engaged in spiritual life try to reduce these activities down to the minimum, down to what's only needed. Or they engage themselves so much in Krishna conscious activities that these activities of eating, sleeping, mating, defending become insignificant. Carry on.
Okay. Unfortunately, Mayavadi philosophers consider devotional activities to be bodily activities. They cannot understand the simple explanation in the Bhagavad Gita, 14:26, Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityatan rama bhuyaya kalpate. Anyone who engages in spiritual devotional service without motivation renders such service for the satisfaction of the Lord, is elevated immediately to the spiritual platform, and all his activities are spiritual. Brahma Bhuyaya refers to Brahman, spiritual activities. Although Mayavadi philosophers are very eager to merge into the Brahman effulgence, they have no Brahman activities. To a certain extent, they recommend Brahman activities, which for them means engagement in studying the Vedanta and Sankhya philosophies, but their interpretations are but dry speculation. Lacking the varieties of spiritual activity, they cannot stay for long on that platform of simply studying Vedanta or Sankhya philosophy.
So this is the Mayavadi situation. They see these are all material activities: eating, sleeping, mating, defending, and so many activities fall within those categories. But then they think that devotional activities are also the same. They're also material activities. They don't understand that anything dedicated to the service of Krishna is any activity dedicated to the service of Krishna is spiritual. And Prabhupada cites Bhagavad Gita, Sagunan Brahmati Chaitan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. He's beyond the modes of nature. But they think, no, these activities are also the same as our material activities. And so they deride the activities of devotional service. And they think, all right, the only Brahman activities are study of Vedanta, study of Sankhya philosophy. That's as far as they go. And actually, for them, finally, there will be no activities, according to their philosophy, because the goal is to merge with Brahma. When we merge with Brahma, then there's no form, no qualities, no activities, no spiritual identity. So their goal is to come to that level where everything is one, and so there's no more activity. But as Prabhupada points out, these are just dry speculations, and becoming inactive is not a feasible option. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just going to make sure I didn't miss anything in the chat. Okay, I don't see anything there. Okay, moving on to next paragraph. Life is meant for varieties of enjoyment. The living entity is by nature full of an enjoying spirit, as stated in the Vedanta Sutra 1.1.12. Ananda Mayo Vyasat. In devotional service, the activities are variegated and full of enjoyment. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 9:2, all devotional activities are easy to perform, su sukham kartum, and are eternal and spiritual, avyayam. Since Mayavadi philosophers cannot understand this, they take it for granted that a devotee's activities, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, etc., are all material and are therefore Maya. They also consider Krishna's advent in this universe and his activities to be Maya. Therefore, because they consider everything Maya, they are known as Mayavadis.
Mhm. It's a disparaging term, Mayavadis, those who consider everything to be Maya, but it's an apt term. They think that all activities are Maya, practically speaking, including devotional activities. They can't discriminate. And even Krishna's activities, they consider to be Maya. And Krishna's form, they consider to be a manifestation of Maya. So, therefore, this term, Mayavadis.
I
Yes,
have something in the chat.
yes.
Saraswati Mataji writes, Pranams Param Puja Maharaj and all the Vaishnavas. Srila Prabhupada pointed out the flaws of Mayavadi in that they profess monism, but then differentiate between the holy name of Krishna and Krishna himself.
Mm. There's so many ways in which Prabhupada uh, punches holes in Mayavadi misunderstandings. All right. Carry on.
Next paragraph. Actually, any activities performed favorably for the satisfaction of the Lord under the direction of the spiritual master are spiritual. But for a person to disregard the order of the spiritual master and act by concoction, accepting his nonsensical activities to be spiritual, is Maya. One must achieve the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the mercy of the spiritual master. Therefore, one must first please the spiritual master. And if he is pleased, then we should understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is also pleased. But if the spiritual master is displeased by our actions, they are not spiritual. Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur confirms this. Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasado, yasya prasadam nagati topi. Activities that please the spiritual master must be considered spiritual, and they should be accepted as satisfying to the Lord.
Yeah. So a devotee's activities are spiritual, but it's not that on that plea I can say, well, I'm a devotee, therefore anything I do is spiritual. That doesn't work. They have to be activities approved by the Shastras, approved by the spiritual master, pleasing to the spiritual master. Then they can be accepted as spiritual, not just that anything that I do becomes spiritual. Then we go from Mayavad to Sahaja. The Sahaja is taken, well, anything I do is spiritual because it's all dedicated to Krishna. There's a similar heresy in Christian history. There were some priests who came up with what came to be known, if I remember, as the pure soul heresy. The idea was that the Christian soul is pure, and therefore the desires of the Christian soul are pure. And therefore, for a true Christian to deny his desires is untoward. He should acknowledge his desires and satisfy his desires because they're spiritual, because he's a Christian. So of course that becomes illicit sex. The pure souls get in bed with one another and gratify their desires, and that's all spiritual. So these heretical ideas can appear in any tradition. Basically, we want to have sex and justify it as spiritual, or we want to perform any kind of material activity and justify it as spiritual. So here Srila Prabhupada writes that this is unacceptable. Activities that are authorized by the Shastra or the Guru are spiritual. Activities that please the Guru are spiritual. Otherwise, they're useless. Hare Krishna.
In the chat, Praveen Guru writes, they do not term themselves as my bodies. Is this term coined by Srila Prabhupada?
No, I don't believe so. No, certainly not, because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Mayavadi Pasha Shunile Hoy Sarvanasha. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refers to them as Mayavadis. So it's certainly not coined by Srila Prabhupada. It's theirs since at least the time of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hare Krishna.
Moving on to the next paragraph. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as the Supreme Spiritual Master, instructed his mother about the Mayavad philosophy by saying that the body is dirt and eatables are also dirt. He implied that everything is Maya. This is Mayavad philosophy. The philosophy of the Mayavadis is defective because it maintains that everything is Maya. But the nonsense they speak. While saying that everything is Maya, the Mayavadi philosopher loses the opportunity of devotional service, and therefore his life is doomed. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore advised, Mayavadi Bhashya Shunale I Sarva Nasha. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 6169. If one accepts the Mayavad philosophy, his advancement is doomed forever.
Yeah, so this is the same philosophy goes on in a sort of popular way under the slogan, everything is one, everything is one. We should see everything as one. But that, of course, Chaitanya Krishna also says, Pandita Samadarshana, as the Atma Brahmyena Sarvatra Samam Pashyati Arjuna. So oneness is there, but not this Jayādvaita, absolute oneness, where everything is one and anything other than oneness is Maya. The difference then between, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ridicules this view. Well, what's the difference between your sandesh and dirt? Sandesh is dirt. Everything is dirt. The body is dirt. The sandesh is dirt. Dirt is dirt. So why do I have to make distinctions? Everything is one. Finally, it comes to that. If there's only Eka Brahma Dutiya Nasti, there's only the absolute truth and everything else is Maya, then what's the difference? All these distinctions are just illusions. The distinction between one thing and another is all illusory. So why shouldn't I eat dirt? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a child is ridiculing the Mayavad philosophy while speaking to his mother. And very importantly, Prabhupada quotes Mayavadi Pasha Shunile Hoy Sarva Pasha. If one takes to this Mayavad philosophy, then his advancement in spiritual life is ruined. Hare Krishna.
The next text.
While I'm thinking of it, it just becomes an excuse for avoiding the devotional service of the Lord. Everything is one. Well, then why don't you join us and chant Hare Krishna? No, everything is one. So finally, the purport of everything is one is that I won't serve Krishna. I won't take to chanting, hearing, remembering, serving Krishna, because everything is one. But by that, everything is one. They're seeking to avoid their eternal nature as servants of Krishna, and they're depriving themselves of actual oneness or true oneness, practical oneness. They just have some abstract idea that's not really going to work, and will therefore, they finally just come down to material activities, at best philanthropy and so on. Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada points out that even their philanthropy, according to their philosophy, is Maya. So why are you claiming this material world to be false, and then engaging in philanthropy for the sake of this false world? Doesn't make any sense. But that's Mayavad philosophy. It doesn't make sense. Hare Krishna.
Saraswati, are you available to read text 30, as well as take the chat as well?
Yes. Text 30. Antara Vishmita Sachi Balila Tahare Mati Khate Gnana Yoga Ke Sikhale Tore. Translation: Astonished that the child was speaking Mayavad philosophy, Mother Sachi replied, "Who has taught you this philosophical speculation that justifies eating dirt?" Purport: in the philosophical discourse between the mother and the son, when the son said that everything is one, as impersonalists say, the mother replied, "If everything is one, why do people in general not eat dirt, but eat the food grains produced from the dirt?" Om Gyanan Timirindasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So we can see how easily Sachi Mata has torn apart the Mayavad philosophy, the monism theory that everything is one. But it's quite clear and evident that everything may originate from Krishna. He possesses innumerable energies, but the practical application has to be different. And I'm thinking of verse Maya tatamidam sarvam jagad avyaktika murtina matstani sarvabhutani nachaham te shavavistitaha. Krishna says, by me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them, which is something that the Mayavadis really struggle with. They have a preliminary understanding of the absolute truth, but they have to go further. In their realization, they want to deny all spiritual variegatedness, and so they deny the existence of spiritual worlds, and the individual spiritual identities of the jivas. For them, everything is Brahman, spirit. So they've understood the Sat aspect of Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha, features of Krishna. They understand about the eternal nature of the soul, but they still haven't understood, they still don't have the knowledge. Chit, and therefore the bliss, the ananda part that comes and is derived from personal loving service to Krishna. That is something that's grossly missing in their realizations. They have to strive further. Maharaj, if you have some comments, please.
They have oneness, but they can't reconcile variety. That's the fundamental flaw in the impersonalist philosophy. If everything is one, where do the varieties come from? If everything is one, how could there be varieties? They can't accommodate variety or account for variety. The Vaishnavas accept oneness. Sarvakalavidam Brahma. Brahman is everything. Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Krishna is everything. But the Vaishnavas don't subscribe to this idea that because there's oneness, there can't be variety. Parasha Shaktir Nivedaiva Shruyate. That one absolute truth has variegated energies. Svabhavaki Jnana Bala Kriyacha. Those energies are doing everything automatically. So from a variety of energies, Parasha Brahmana Shakti Tatetam Akilam Jagat. From a variety of energies, you can get so many varieties in the material world and in the spiritual world. But so we have oneness, and we have variety, both. For the Vaishnavas, it's simply not a problem. But for the impersonalists, it's an insurmountable problem. If there's oneness, how can there be variety? Well, the variety is all illusion. All right, but then you have oneness and you have illusion. And now you have two-ness. So they're stuck. Parenthetically, someplace, I think it's in Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur also describes this pastime, if I'm not wrong, in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his life and precepts, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was speaking these things. And he says, but his mother was the wife of a pandit, so she was conversant with all these philosophical truth. Hare Krishna.
So Maharaj, I have a question. The Mayavadis, they believe in Brahman, but what about Para Brahman, Krishna? Do they not believe that there is a Para Brahman, Krishna, who is the master and controller of all these different energies, and also who is to be served by the jivas? Do they not make that distinction at all?
For them, Param is just another adjective describing Brahman. Krishna's Param Brahma means, yes, Krishna is also that supreme Brahman. For that matter, Tattvamasi, you're also that supreme Brahman. Sarvakalavidam Brahma, everything's that supreme Brahman. They make no distinction. Brahmanohi Pratishtaham. Krishna says, I'm the source of the Brahman. I'm the basis of the Brahman. But they don't like that. For them, there's just one Brahman. Or there's Saguna Brahma, Nirguna Brahma. Nirguna Brahma is the real Brahma. And Krishna is Saguna Brahma. Brahma compromised by being manifest in terms of the gunas, the material qualities, because they don't recognize spiritual qualities. So they're just the opposite. The devotee celebrates Krishna as the Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitra, Paramam, Paman. But the Mayavadis, Avajananti Mamudha, Manushim Tanam Ashadam, Param Bhavam, they don't recognize Krishna's spiritual, individual superiority. Instead, they think that he's an inferior manifestation of Brahma, a compromised manifestation of Brahma, Saguna Brahma. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Text 31. Matira vikara ana khaila deha pushti haye. Mati khaile roga hoye dehe yaha kshaye. Translation: replying to the Mayavad idea of the child philosopher, Mother Sachi said, "My dear boy, if we eat earth transformed into grain, our body is nourished and it becomes strong. But if we eat dirt in its crude state, the body becomes diseased instead of nourished, and thus it is destroyed." Maharaji, do you have any comments?
It will be further described in the next verse.
Text 32. Matira vikarya kate pani bhariyani, mati pinde dhariya be soshiyaha. Pani. Translation: in a water pot, which is a transformation of dirt, I can bring water very easily. But if I poured water on a lump of dirt, the lump would soak up the water and my labor would be useless. Purport: this simple philosophy propounded by Sachimata, even though she is a woman, can defeat the Mayavadi philosophers who speculate on the oneness. The defect of Mayavad philosophy is that it does not accept the variety that is useful for practical purposes. Sachimata gave the example that although an earthen pot and a lump of dirt are basically one, for practical purposes, the water pot is useful, whereas the lump of dirt is useless. Sometimes scientists argue that matter and spirit are one, with no difference between them. Factually, in a higher sense, there is no difference between matter and spirit, but one should have the practical knowledge that matter, being an inferior state of existence, is useless for our spiritual blissful life, whereas spirit, being a finer state, is full of bliss. In this connection, the Bhagavatam gives the example that dirt and fire are practically one and the same. From earth grows trees, and from their wood comes fire and smoke. Nevertheless, for heat, we can utilize the fire, but not the earth, smoke, or wood. Therefore, for the ultimate realization of the goal of life, we are concerned with the fire of the spirit, not the dull wood or earth of matter. Maharaji, if you have some comments.
This example is found in first canto, second chapter of Bhagavatam, and it's practical. The example is very nice. In the water pot is earth, and the lump of earth is earth. But in the water pot, you can carry water, and if you pour your water on the lump of earth, then the earth just becomes mud. The interesting here that Prabhupada said scientists argue that matter and spirit are one with no difference between them. Scientists may not put the argument in those terms, but essentially that is their view, that when the Mayavadis, the impersonalists, they think there's only spirit and therefore everything is one. And the scientists think there's only matter and therefore everything is one. They're even worse off than the Mayavadis in that sense. They have it, the Mayavadis at least recognize that there's spirit, whereas the materialists haven't yet come to that point. For them, everything is matter. So the spirit, so-called spirit, is also matter. Consciousness is just matter. I'm matter, you're matter, everything is matter. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna criticizes this view in the second chapter, the view held by, Prabhupada mentions, I think, the Lokataikas, like that. Those who see everything as just matter. If everything is matter, why live? Why do anything? Why try to enjoy it if everything becomes meaningless? If matter is everything, then there's no difference between a blessing and a curse, between a disaster and and good fortune. Everything becomes one. That makes no sense either. So by mental speculation, one can arrive at all of these defective conclusions, either matter being everything, and then again, the same thing. How do we account for differences between matter? Well, the scientists will accept, okay, this matter is different from that matter. But finally, it all becomes just matter. Sariputta found this profoundly distressing, as he recounts in his book, Mechanistic and Non-Mechanistic Science. I believe he recounts it there, that finally everything is matter, and therefore we're also matter, and therefore our existence finally comes down to nothing more than ones and zeros, or nothing more than glorified computers. And as Prabhupada points out, if a beaker of some chemicals knocked over and broken, no one cares. But if a person dies, then we care. But from a scientific point of view, in which everything is just matter, what's the difference? It's all just arbitrary difference, or the difference between this and that in value. Cruelty is devalued, and kindness is devalued just arbitrarily. Otherwise, they're just two different states of matter. So the materialists and the impersonalists strangely find themselves in agreement on this point, that everything is one. Although at least the Mayavadis are conscious of it, or they openly say it, whereas the materialists sort of cover it up. They talk about varieties, they celebrate varieties, the wonderful varieties of the universe. But finally, it all boils down to ones and zeros with no meaning to them. And consciousness itself boils down to the same thing. And what is the use of anything? So, again, the Vaishnava conclusion makes sense of all these varieties and reifies them, acknowledges them to be true in relationship to Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, just to clarify where Srila Prabhupada says factually, in a higher sense, there is no difference between matter and spirit, but one should have the practical knowledge that matter, being an inferior state of existence, is useless for our spiritual blissful life. So is this pertaining to the three principal energies, internal, marginal, and external, and that the jiva is superior to the material energy? And they don't need to be in contact with this inferior material energy in order to have a realized spiritual blissful life. Is that what it means?
No, I mean, that's when we finally unpack it and explain it, we'll come to that point. But what he's saying is that we agree, Sarva Kalavidam Brahma. This is a Shastric statement. Everything is Brahma. Sarva Kalavidam Brahma, Eka Brahma Dutiya Nasti, Vasudeva Sarvamati. In the ultimate sense, there's nothing else but Brahma. There's nothing else but Krishna. So there's oneness. We also accept the Mayavad position that finally nothing else exists but Brahma. This is the statement of, a repeated statement of Shastra, so we accept it. But the Mayavadis stop there. There's only Brahma and everything else is false. But the Vaishnavas accept that Brahma has various energies.
Ay, no. Estaba buscando eso, pero está mucho, mucho caliente.
Mataji, hay que
Es el jabón de la loza, que eso es para grasa. Solo ese pedacito.
we need you to mute your microphone. Gracias. So the devotees accept Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate, that in spirit also there's variety. The Brahma is not impersonal. Brahma is not lacking in variety. The Mayavadis have bad experience of variety, so they want to cancel out all variety. Variety is Maya. But no, the Absolute Truth has varieties, encompasses varieties. How is that? Through his energies. Parasya Shakti Vividaiva Shriyate. So the Mayavadis only have half. Everything is Brahma. But they don't have the other half, that the Brahma has unlimited energies. And then those energies come in different categories: material energy, spiritual energy.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. We have a question or a comment in the chat box from Venkatesh Prabhu. Hare Krishna Maharaj. It seems this impersonal philosophy can affect society of devotees as well, as I have heard, that we have a personal philosophy but impersonal behavior in various ways. How can deity worship, dealings and emotions be practiced so that the Mayavad contamination can be overcome? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the question. I think there's a misunderstanding here, which I've often come to. Prabhupada uses this term, impersonalism, impersonalism. And we take that to, but there's already an existing term, impersonalism. Let's find it in the dictionary. Impersonalism. The practice of maintaining impersonal relations with individuals or groups. So let's come to impersonal. I knew I shouldn't have just gone to ism. Lacking human emotion or warmth. So an impersonal manner, speaking in an impersonal manner, that's impersonal, no emotion, no personality, an aloof, impersonal manner, an impersonal remark. There are many other, yeah. Yeah. But the Prabhupada doesn't use impersonalism in that sense. Let's just let me back up a little bit. Yeah. But impersonal can also mean not possessing personality, not existing or manifested as a person. This is the Oxford English Deity. Heraclitus seems to have called up a rival impersonal deity who must swallow up the personal gods of the popular faith. So there you have, we have two different, in summary, we have two different uses of the word impersonal. Impersonal can be philosophical, or impersonal can be psychological, let's say. So you get psychological impersonalism, in which we don't have warm relations with one another, we don't have empathy, we disregard the feelings of others, and so on. That's a kind of psychological impersonalism. And then we have philosophical impersonalism, in which we fail to acknowledge the individual identity of the personality of Godhead, and we fail to acknowledge the individuality of the individual souls. So when Prabhupada speaks against impersonalism again and again and again, he's speaking about philosophical impersonalism. The notion that personality is Maya, the notion that yes, that the absolute truth ultimately has no form, qualities, name, activities, and so on. That's the impersonalism that Prabhupada is talking about. And when he uses the term, he doesn't mean, he's not referring to the psychological impersonalism. He's not referring to lack of warmth, lack of empathy, lack of feeling for others. That's not his point. That's not what's being referred to. Just as when we refer to green, the green of a tree is different from the green of envy or the green of money. They're different meanings, and we don't want to mix them. Or a block of wood is different from the block that one grows up on, the street that one grows up on. We have words that have many different meanings. The Saindava Raja, I think this example is given by Jiva Goswami, or one of the acharyas. Saindava Raja, the king of Sindhu, but Saindava can also mean salt. So we have to take the right meaning. He's the king of the Sindhu province, not the king of salt. So there are different different meanings for impersonalism, and we grow up with the psychological meaning, not with the philosophical one. Usually, as we're growing up, we don't hear about impersonalism in a philosophical sense, but we hear about it all the time in terms of in the emotional or psychological sense. So there's no need to mix the two. They're not, Prabhupada's not speaking out against psychological impersonalism. They're just two different things altogether. Is that okay? Okay. And the question says, how can there be impersonalism in the society of devotees? No, it's just two different things altogether. It's not that because I become a personalist in the philosophical sense, then I automatically become warm and empathic and perhaps outgoing and social. No, just that I have the right philosophical understanding. And of course, it's expected that I'll develop Vaishnava qualities. But again, these are just two different meanings, separate. Hare Krishna. Time for kirtan, it seems.
Yes. Can I request Naveen Prabhuji to lead the closing kirtan, if possible?
Yes, I can. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Om Vishnuvad Paramahansa Paripurajaka Ashto Tarasati Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari.
His Holiness Jayādvaita Maharaj Shri Ki Sada Jai Ho.
Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Saraswati. Thank you, Naveen. Thank you to all. And we'll wish you a good weekend, and we'll see you again.